American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life when the words all come down.
Welcome to another episode of
American Timelines.
I'm Amy and that's Joe.
And we are back again in 1950, and we're excited because we have guests again. We gave you a little preview last week when we played their ad that I said, this is going to be our guest next week. So I'm really excited, and we'll just go ahead and introduce them right now. Please welcome Rod and Karen with the Black Guy Who Tips podcast.
Yes.
Hey
everybody, how y'all doing out there?
Thank you for having us. We appreciate y'all going back into the American past and giving our commentary on 1950.
That's cool. Thank you guys for being here. And if you're if you like it and you have a good time, you don't hate us at the end of this, we'd love to have you back again for another year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We don't mind.
But you guys,
I've been listening to the show. We're big. Is it Singapore that y'all are on the charts in?
Yeah.
Look, we're trying to get our Singapore numbers up.
No, I think it's it's Thailand. I think that we.
Listen, we better. We got to get better in Thailand.
We are the 195th best comedy podcast in Thailand.
See,
way to go.
I don't even think we're charting in Thailand, so we got to do better. And
we got work to do over here.
We're here to make it happen.
Hey, tell our listeners a little bit about the Black Guy Who Tips.
We are a comedy podcast, husband and wife. We've been doing this for 11 years, for a very long time. The motto of the show is there's nothing wrong if it's funny. And we talk about pop culture and TV and all types of stuff. It's something that we actually really, really love to do.
That's great. And you guys did this 11 years ago. You started this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think, did anybody even listen to podcasts then? You guys are on the ground floor.
Very, very few.
If you had an iPod with a rotating dial on
that
it.
clicked, which I had,
Yeah.
was heavy like a brick. And I maybe a few years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago, got rid of it because I had it for ever. And the IT person at my job was like, "Oh my gosh, this is ancient."
It's like an antique.
Yeah, so if you've been
Yes.
if you downloaded MP3s off of the internet and then physically moved them over to what you were listening to, that was basically what podcasting was for a lot of people. It wasn't as streamlined with the podcast apps
some
and
type of tech.
yeah.
Well, and so
but we made it.
You have over 2,000 episodes, right? Can you? Is your first episode accessible? Can we go all the way back, or is there too many?
You
Yes.
can. It's on exclusively on Spotify. If you go to the Black Guy, just search the Black Guy Tips.
Yeah.
And it goes all
you
the
can
way
listen
back
to
to
our
number one.
first episode. That it sounds really depressing.
We were
I was going to
tired.
ask you if you ever
That's how ours
go
is.
back and listen to the first one.
We were so tired, and the biggest reason why is because we had to record 4 or 5 times. The computer went down, went to go buy a new computer. The soundboard didn't work for that one, so we had to go
my
back
God.
and get it. And then when we finished, it was about midnight, and then we looked at each other, go, "How do we get this on iTunes?" That show you how long
Yes.
ago you had to Google how do you put this on
That's
iTunes.
right.
And then we was like, we hope somebody listens.
Yes, you guys are really motivated
That's crazy.
to look it up and learn all that.
Yeah. Well, it was at that point we had sunk money into it.
Yes.
We had bought mics that didn't work certain ways and all that stuff, and it was really at that point, I really feel like if we wouldn't have finished recording that show and put it out, we would have had to get divorced. That's how much effort we put into that first
It was
episode.
a lot of
So
effort. We were so tired.
Who decided to do a podcast first? Did you both just simultaneously, or did one of you had to convince the other one?
It was me. I wanted to do a podcast, and I thought Karen would be a great co-host, and she didn't think so. And
No, that's why it's called the Black Guy.
It's funny.
yeah, because she was like, just name it that, and then you can host it with anyone, and if you want to replace me, then that's fine.
Yes, I was like, I could be a producer.
Oh, wow.
I'm fine with being behind the scenes. I literally was okay with that, and I looked at him like, I might be bad at this. I might be terrible at this. So I'm like, I am good.
Well, you guys have such good chemistry.
Oh yeah, and it's a perfect match, and you're great. You guys complement each other well. Like, oh yeah, I don't think at all. But let me ask you this though. I keep forgetting because I've interviewed you for a couple different like a festival and stuff, and I meant to ask you this. I don't know if people ask this a lot, but where did the name come from, and do you how much do you tip? Like, do you tip excessively tipping?
Yeah, we tip a lot.
We
but
tip high, yeah.
it's mostly because we used to be waiters.
Yes,
Yes.
that'll do it.
And so I feel like every person should mandatory have
Yes,
to be a
I
waiter
agree.
for a little bit.
Me too. People's attitudes
yes.
would change.
Yeah, people would be better as humans if you work on both sides of the equation. And then the other part was I had a blog called The Black Guy Who Tips because I just thought, because sometimes people say like black people don't tip, and I'm like, that's kind of racist. And I'm like, the reason that, and I was like, and then also because you can't separate like black people getting bad service or racial discrimination. You can't separate that from whether or not someone tips. Because when I was a waiter, people used to be like super racist to the black customers. Like, they wouldn't want to wait on them. They used to give me their tables.
Me too. They used to give me the tables. Like, I don't want them. You want them? I'm like, sure, I'll take them.
Oh.
That's terrible.
So I was like, now if you know me, you know a black guy who tips. So don't say that anymore.
right.
At least you know at least one. So
Yes.
stop using that broad sweeping statement that black people don't tip. And that was just the blog, and it was just funny things I would think of every once in a while and send to my friends, and they, maybe share on the internet. And so we use that name for the podcast.
Yeah, and what's so funny is like I'm a bonus because a lot of people read the name and they just assume it's just one person talking.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, I'm like the plus one that happens to show up on the scene. It's not the black guy who tips and the girl, or the black guy who tips and the wife. You just go the black guy who tips.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, who cares? That's cool. Anyway, it's fun to listen to because you guys cover so many topics that even if there's two things you're not interested in, you're going to get to something that you're interested in. So I feel like it must appeal to everybody because you talk about politics, news, pop culture news. I mean, everything. And so, it's just, I think it's really cool. And it's like, it reminds me of like a radio show, like Howard Stern or something, or, a show you'd listen to on Sirius, So congratulations for being picked up by Spotify.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Appreciate it.
So that's what I think when I reached out to you, I was like, are you allowed to do that? Do I have to like
Go
ask
through
Spotify?
Spotify?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we were doing, we're pretty much still allowed to do. I mean, we like that was important to us.
Yes.
Like we're like we want to have our freedom. We don't want to just like have our show turned into something like we don't recognize anymore and stuff.
Yeah.
And they've been really amenable to it and really supportive. So yeah, I like doing stuff like this too. I'm a big fan of podcasts.
Yes,
Me too. We listen to hundreds between each other, hundreds of podcasts. Like, we are heavy podcast listeners. And also something that I do that I know a lot of podcasters don't. I actually go back and listen to our podcast periodically, just randomly listen. And I know a lot of people they don't like the sound of their voice, but I feel like if you're doing something and it's a craft, how do you get better unless you go back and listen to see what can you improve? Maybe I should have said it this way. And I realized over the years it helps sharpen my skills.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That's great advice too for podcasters, I think. Awesome. Thank you guys so much again for being here, and this is so cool. And but let's get into it because I could just talk to you guys probably forever about your podcast.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump into the 1950. We left off at the end of May, so we're in June. And the first thing I want to talk about is not something that happened in United States of America, but it happened in North America, but it affected the United States. It was the Chinchaga Fire.
Okay.
Have you guys ever heard of the Chinchaga Fire?
Yes. There's these plants, like you can put seeds.
I don't think it's that.
You put
one, no.
seeds on this like paste or something, and like it grows a plant on like a statue or
Different
a toy.
version. I
You
think
know
it's a
what?
different version.
I'm stupid. It's the Chinchaga Fire. Sorry. So that probably ruins it.
Man, no, I don't know
Chinchaga Fire.
No, I know chimichangas.
What did I say? Chinchinga?
Yeah, you said Chinchaga.
I love chimichangas.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Chinchaga Fire is the largest recorded fire in North American history, and it produced massive amounts of smoke that was mostly in the upper atmosphere and could not be smelled even. since news of the fire was also sparse because, they didn't have fast news, like they didn't have Twitter or anything like that. Many thought the dark sky was a result of nuclear Armageddon or supernatural forces or even alien invasion.
Oh, wow. I wonder how dark it was.
Wow.
It was just like
night dark?
Yeah, it was like a fire and it just fills it with smoke, but you couldn't smell it because it went up so
wouldn't
high.
it be so creepy
So
to have it just be dark like that, like on an eclipse day?
Yeah.
To me, that is so creepy. My skin crawls a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about what you said. It makes sense. Like you say, now we have media, news, and satellites and things to tell us, hey, it's a fire, pay attention. But then you used to have to go buy a horse to tell somebody the news.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
how would you
That's
know?
nuts. Yeah, you just got to wait for some guy to yell the news. That's I mean, not in the 1950s, but still, you'd have to wait till the evening radio show news or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, and even now, like local news, if you hear a bang outside your window, you get on your neighborhood app or whatever, the next door app, and somebody,
Right.
shots are fired or whatever. But according to the Williams Lake Tribune, which is in BC, the Chinchaga Fire, also known as the Wisp Fire and Fire 19, burned in northern BC and Alberta in the summer and early fall of 1950, didn't end until the end of October. So from June all the way to October, it burned.
Oh, my God.
With a final size of between 1,400,000 hectares and 1,700,000 hectares.
So is it a wildfire?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You didn't specify, and I thought, what kind of fire?
What, as opposed to
I don't know. I'm being stupid.
Another
Is it
fire?
like a building fire?
Yeah,
I guess that wouldn't be the
We're no
world's
civilized. We're no civilized fires. Like the wildfires, they like go out on the weekends. They get
Yes.
drunk.
calm fire.
But civilized fires, they're like, all right, guys, Monday through Friday, time to wrap
That's
this up.
right.
Yeah, just in Utah, I was like, this is not for the United States, because I'm like, wait a minute, what is a hectometer?
So it's that's it. A hectare is bigger than an acre. 1 hectare is equal to 2.47 acres, and about 2.5 times the size of an average football field.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of
And
fire.
I guess you could. I have, I'm from Northwest Ohio, and I have family that remember. Or I don't have family, friends who have older family members that remember it. So I try to ask them to give me a story, but I couldn't really get word of mouth. But
I want to know who named it Fire 19. Like, that person was not very inspired.
No.
well, that makes me wonder: was that the 19th fire of 1950, or was it?
Right. Was it the
Why don't they-
19th big fire
Why don't
ever?
they name wildfires like they do hurricanes? They could use
People's names?
yeah.
Maybe there's not. Is there not that many? I don't know.
I think isn't there every year pretty much a couple of wildfires?
It seems like California
I
there's
mean,
always.
from now on, there will
Yeah,
be.
that's right. Yeah,
There'll be definitely in America.
that's terrible. Oh God, there is. It's the end of times.
Yeah.
They thought the fire was a man caused by man.
Oh man.
With the ignition point north of Fort St. John and moved northeastward nearly to Keg River, Alberta, wherever that is. But they're not exactly sure. One person thinks it's an Imperial Oil surveying crew who started the blaze to protect their horses from biting insects. Somebody else thought it was agricultural clearing that could have started the spark, but they didn't really know.
Not the insects biting the horses, but the horses biting the
No,
insects.
the insects biting the horse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I say
So,
that?
like, they
Did I
started
say
the
that
fire,
wrong?
And then I guess no, you
Okay.
said it right.
Okay.
You just misunderstood.
Okay, I misunderstood. I was like, wait a minute, what kind of bug is
Yeah,
this?
really. I love it.
The horse is biting the bugs. And then I'm going to jump to, so you guys have probably heard that Amy hates birthdays, but I'm going to just throw June 3rd, 1950 out there. It was a Saturday. Denise Williams was born. Do you know who Denise Williams is?
No.
Do you guys know who Denise Williams is?
No.
This would maybe age everybody, but she's an American pop singer that's saying "Let's Hear It for the Boy" in the 80s.
Oh.
Remember that song?
Happy birthday to Denise.
We needed that birthday. in
That
here.
was
Yeah.
that's my jam.
She was born in 19. That was
I love to
great
hear.
song.
I like the birthday part of the
Yeah.
show because Amy
I
does.
know. Because it's
Yeah.
the birthdays that he chooses most of the time.
Usually they're pro wrestlers. and
Yeah,
that bothers her.
exactly.
Oh.
See, I got my Coco Beware shirt on. I don't know. You guys aren't into pro wrestling, are you?
Nah, I'm not a big
was
wrestling
when I was a
person.
kid.
Yeah.
And then you outgrew it.
That's that like normal human beings do.
I mean, it's such a big.
It's big. It's a lot of adults.
Yeah.
Like when
That's true.
WWE comes on, my social media is full of people that are very excited. That's how I know when it comes on
Yeah,
air.
that's
I
true.
would have never thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's theater. It's a different kind of theater. And then we're going to
Yeah.
jump to June 5th, 1950, which was a Monday. A chartered C-46 airplane operated by West Air had to ditch in the Atlantic Ocean after losing power during a flight from San Juan, Puerto Rico to Wilmington, Delaware, with a loss of 37 of the 65 people on board. According to ResearchGate.net, the passengers were contract workers hired to harvest beets in the state of Michigan. 28 passengers lost their lives during the ditching, many by drowning or by savage shark attacks.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
The Sharks was ready.
Yeah.
Man, you know how delicious those people must have tasted with beef?
I didn't even think about that.
Can you imagine? The Sharks is chilling, going, "Ooh, you smell that? I smell beets."
Do sharks eat beets? That's a good question.
I don't know.
I don't eat.
I mean, apparently
Yeah.
so.
Apparently so. They same color. They can't tell the
Right.
difference.
I don't eat beets because I'm too busy dropping them.
Oh my God.
Boom.
Oh my God.
Beat it. Get out of
That's
here.
a lyric from my hip hop song "Waffle Sweats" that I'll send to you guys later.
You don't want to know. You really don't want it. That one and Hot Dog Water, which is his other hip hop song.
No, I gotta tell you that I thought when I came up with that line, that's the whole reason I wrote the song. I thought, why doesn't any rapper ever said I don't eat beats because I'm too busy dropping them? And I even Googled it because somebody had to say that because that's such a great line. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to write it myself.
So then that was born.
And so I wrote Waffle Sweats. And then, okay, this is the last birthday we're doing, June 7th. Well, no, I'm not even. I'll skip it because they're not wrestling fans, so they won't know this. You won't know it. It'll be just for me.
It'll be just for you.
So I'm gonna.
But there's all the listeners in Thailand that want to know.
That's
true.
right.
And I think you should say it just for
All right,
them.
June 7th, 1950 was a Wednesday. Howard Finkel, American pro wrestling ring announcer, was born in Newark, New Jersey.
So he wasn't even a wrestler.
He's not even a wrestler.
He
He's
was an announcer.
He was the announcer, but
Is he like an iconic announcer?
yeah,
Does he have?
He was like the announcer for all through the 80s and some of the 90s, and then he WWE did a reality show later where they had like referees and Gene Okerlund and wrestlers all move in together in a house, and he was there,
Oh my God.
Wow.
and everybody hated him.
Does he have a catchphrase?
No, I don't think he had a catchphrase.
You gotta get a catchphrase.
No,
man.
he was just like a weird,
Was he the
guy.
one with the mustache?
mustache bald
Dark.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
bald guy with a
I
mustache.
know. And that's the sad thing is I know who you're talking about now.
not a waste of a birthday.
Yeah.
Right.
I count
Yeah.
that.
All right, I'm going to jump to, June 8th, 1950 was a Thursday. The New Jersey Jolters defeated the Brooklyn Red Devils 24-22 to win the first ever World Series of roller derby
Oh my God.
Wow.
before a crowd of 16,877 people at New York City's Madison Square Garden. So do you guys know anything about roller derby? Anybody?
Not much.
No.
Not much.
I really didn't either. Like I guess I've somewhere known kind of what it is, but I always just thought it was people fighting, like roller skating and knocking each other down. But I fell down a rabbit hole looking at this. So there were men's teams and women's teams with the same name. And I also have this weird obsession with like defunct teams, like teams that don't exist anymore. Like I want a hat of them and all this stuff, like all the USFL teams and all this stuff and all the baseball teams that don't exist. So I'm just fascinated by the team names, like the Brooklyn Red Devils and the Jersey Jolters. The other teams in this league were the Chicago Westerners and the New York Chiefs, and they were in this tournament, the World Series tournament. Yeah, and it was just like, I don't know why I want that. I like to have stuff that nobody knows what it is. But I looked at it.
Yeah, those are some really weird names.
Didn't you tell me you found one that was the Crackers?
Oh, we'll get to that. That's
Oh, the Black Crackers. I actually have that.
yeah,
hat.
the Black Crack. So he knows about
You
it.
know
Cool.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that wasn't roller derby.
Yeah,
that was in the
it's
Negro
like the
leagues,
Atlanta Black
which
Crackers.
we'll talk about.
My
love
friend
it.
went to like the Negro Baseball League Hall of Fame, and she bought that hat because she said it reminded her of
Oh,
me.
that's
And so
great.
she
What
sent
was
it to
on
me.
the hat? What was the logo for the Black Crackers?
I just remember. I mean, it's probably in there somewhere. I just remember being black and red, and it didn't have like a person or anything on it. It was just like,
just the words,
like Atlanta or something like that. It wasn't like, it just said Atlanta Black Crackers on it, but
That's
wasn't
so
like
cool.
I
didn't hear of until yesterday that even existed ever. So, and I have that later with Willie Mays kind of coming up about that. So, but this roller derby though, there were women teams and men teams. So like the Jolters would had a woman team and a men team, and they score them both for the totals. So the women play against the women, and they just race around, and they just knock the crap out of each other. They're not wearing helmets or elbow pads or anything. They're wearing like
They
50s
do now,
clothes. I'm sure they do now,
back
but
then-
this is the 50s, and they were like
Yeah.
and you can find it on YouTube, and it's fascinating.
really.
Now it's very
A different breed of people back then, They also probably didn't have airbags and things too, so safety was not on the top of the
That's
no,
right,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
true.
We didn't wear
No
seat
seatbelts.
belts, and I love watching old movies.
and people
Oh
fall.
yeah, oh yeah. I like watching old movies when like for baby carriers, like they're just like these metal cages they put over them, like
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, it was really interesting and nuts.
So when you say the men had the same team names as the women, and they played against the women.
No,
too,
it was
or-
like it seemed like one match they'd have the ladies play against the ladies, the match. Like so the the Jolters and the Red Devils would play. The ladies would play each other, and they'd run around, and they're racing. They're just trying to see who stays in first place. I don't know how many times they go around, but like they'll get in line. Like the same team members will hold on to each other to like whip each other around and stuff, and then and then they'll like elbow the opposing people off. And so I guess the women will, I don't know how they score points, but like each round they get points, and then the men go out there, and then the women wait. And a lot of times there'd be married couples, like a woman and a man are married and they're on the same team.
You guys, that could be what we do.
Yeah, you guys could do it.
You guys could do it, and we could do it.
We're in Charlotte.
We could be podcasting
roller
rollerbladers.
derby. I can't even. I
can start a
can't even
league.
hardly stand up.
I can't
on
roller
rollerblades
skate.
or
Yeah.
roller skates.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't say it'd be
Right.
great. We said we could do it.
I would attempt.
Yeah.
They could just watch us like slowly roll around and fall. And
Right,
stuff.
exactly.
Yes, talking about our knees and our backs.
And then we could podcast like, oh yeah, this is brought to you by
Ben Gay.
Geritol.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Epsom
Oh
salt.
my gosh. I need some aspirin already, some bear. I'm already sore. All right, June 9th, 1950 was a Friday. Do you guys know who the Hollywood 10 are? Have you ever heard of that? The Hollywood 10? Mm-mm. So it
I think do they have to deal with the Hollywood squares?
no.
No. Okay. Well then, nope.
That
no,
would be
no.
9. The Hollywood
Yeah, I thought like maybe one reserve.
one backup, yeah, or John Davidson, the
You
host
know.
or whatever.
The host
Yeah.
is number 10.
Hollywood 10 was 10 motion picture producers, directors, and screenwriters who appeared before the House Un-American Activities Committee in October 1947 and refused to answer questions regarding their possible communist affiliations.
Oh, the McCarthy.
Yeah, and so after spending time in prison for contempt of Congress, they were mostly blacklisted by Hollywood studios.
Wow.
I could see this whole thing play itself out again.
That McCarthyism seems a lot like what they're trying to do, what
No.
they're always trying to call liberals, like
Communists.
communists and traitors and all that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's changed a bit now because like you can lean into it and be like, I'm a socialist, and then it's like, damn, we didn't have one for
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Like,
That's right.
like
we
I don't
wasn't
know.
prepared.
Like it used to be at time it was like, you're a communist. You're like, no, I'm not. Well, you can never work here again just because you might be. But now you can be like, I'm a socialist, and they're like, man, he beat us to the punch. I guess we have to let him keep working.
Right. We don't know an answer
That's
to
a
that.
smart answer.
Yeah.
Anyway, by 1950, on June 9th, screenwriters Dalton Trumbo and John Howard Lawson, who were part of this, they were hauled to jail and handcuffed together after being convicted of contempt of Congress because they refused to name names. It just kept going. McCarthyism.
Oh my God.
It's very sweet of them to let them be handcuffed.
Yeah, I
really?
guess that was
There's
nice.
something-
Like maybe they.
Very poetic about that.
Hopefully they
but,
got along.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to jail for unsubstantiated claims of communism.
No.
Just when I want to make movies,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, what if they put you on stand and say, okay, podcasters are communists. Name some communist podcasters and we'll let you go.
Right.
They'll be in trouble. Like I don't
Mark
know any.
Maron. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, can't you just search? I'm sure there's like on search, just communist podcast. It'll come up.
You can
That's
probably
right.
find. There probably is one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's a podcast for everything.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to June 11th, 1950, which was a Sunday. NASCAR racer John Edward Skimp Hersey was 37 years old and was fatally injured when he lost control of his car during a race at Atlanta's Lakewood Speedway. At the time, it was common for racers to keep a can of extra gasoline in their vehicles in case they ran out of gas.
God.
What?
They didn't have a pit crew?
Well, they did, but in case they ran out of gas away from the pit crew, they could just fill it up themselves. So he's got a can of gas in the car with him. And according to GeorgiaRacingHistory.com, when Hersey's car became airborne, the lid came off the gas can, coating the inside of his car with fuel. As the car came to rest, something sparked, igniting the fuel and turning Hersey's car into an inferno.
Oh, my God.
Now, the accident happened right in front of grandstands, which were situated at the entrance of the turn. An estimated crowd of 15,000 people watched in horror as flames
God.
roared from Hersey's car. Suddenly, though, disoriented because he was on fire, he emerged from the burning car, on fire. He stumbled from the wreck, and then he just sat down on the track, still burning, as the crowd screamed for someone to help. The closest person to him was a photographer for an Atlanta newspaper, which is still being published today. And the Atlanta, I'll have to look it up. I deleted what it's called. Anyway, it's Atlanta newspaper. The photographer moved out onto the track and had been taking photos of the accident when Hersey emerged from the flames, but he never went to help. He just kept taking pictures.
Can you see them?
You can see the pictures. So I guess
He's like, this is my chance to get the picture.
Yeah.
and he did.
First paparazzi,
Yeah.
he was like, you know what?
Well, and they
I'm gonna get the
they'd
Pulitzer.
win awards for pictures like this, and this guy had won lots of them, I think, before. The gruesome sequence would be on the front page of the next day's paper, and finally somebody reached Hersey and managed to get the fire out, but it was too late. He was transported to Grady Hospital, where he died a day later.
God, you would want to die. I would rather die than live with those kind of burns. Like, that's supposed to be the most painful thing in this planet, pretty
I
much.
can't imagine. And you wonder if, he's got so much adrenaline, he probably doesn't even feel it at the time.
Right.
But who knows? But the photographer, according to witness reports, had to be personally escorted by police from the track. Had the crowd gotten their hands on him, they likely would have torn him to pieces because everybody was like, help him. And he just was taking pictures.
Like you're the closest to him.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
And so I guess auto races and deaths in those days were widely treated sensationally, with photos of racers having been or being killed running on the front pages. And so that was sort of like a rampant thing. I mean, we played our last episode, we played a newsreel of an explosion that killed a bunch of people on a railway, and then the newsreel was on YouTube. They put like dramatic, exciting music, like it's a movie, but it's a story. It's a news story about people dying, and they tell it like a movie as entertainment.
Yeah.
It's like really creepy.
Yeah, and it's amazing how far the technology, because now their suits are like fireproof. Everything's fireproof. So you go from everybody being set on fire, having a tank, to now like everything is fireproof.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I saw there was a crash just like a couple of weeks ago where the car split in half and exploded.
Yeah, we seen that.
And the guy got out and walked away because
Wow.
like we've just improved technology
I didn't know
that much.
That's
so,
crazy.
You know, but back then, I mean, that
You would think they would
gotta
have
take
thought
a
of
gas.
that as a possibility.
I mean,
Yeah.
You know?
the gas can like that, like I can't even imagine.
No.
It sounds ridiculous now, but
right.
of course it's years later. But also, I understand, Rod and Karen, you guys have something that happened on June 11th, the same day.
Well, first of all, Graham Russell, Australian rock vocalist for Air Supply, he was born in Melbourne.
right.
Yeah.
Victoria's Day.
I'm getting
Birthday!
ganged up on.
Say it's your birthday.
Can't forget about that. Yeah, we do have something that happened this day. Stanford B20, or maybe it's 20. I didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to say that either.
But he shot himself
Ooh.
to death as he sat beside Telecaster Dick Gottlieb in a press box at Buffalo Stadium.
Oh, tell me everything.
Amy wants to hear it all.
So he first of all, the shot was heard on television, even though people didn't see it because the camera was on the bench of the team, and so but they saw the team react to the sound of the shot.
The team like looked up, and everybody was like, "What is the team looking up at?"
Yeah.
And then they cut over to the booth, and they saw the slumped over body.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then they said that a half hour before he was in a bar, and he told a bar waitress he was gonna kill himself, and he said, "Watch me at the end of the fifth."
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. Why the fifth? Why not the seventh and the
Yeah,
stretch?
you would think that would be
Who
more
has-
of an exciting time to do it.
Yeah. And he actually went into the room and was like, "Hey, I want to speak to you." And the dude kind of blew him off, like,
Because they were on the air.
Right.
Oh wow.
And he was like, well, I got something to say or whatever. And they was like, nah, man, we doing the show right now. Get out of here. And then he pulled out a gun and he shot himself in the back of the head.
In the back of
In
the
the
head?
back of the
air.
head, like this?
Yeah, right behind the ear.
Oh man.
And then he died 2 hours later in the hospital because he, probably shot himself in the back of the head. He probably should have. You probably want to go for the temple. if you're
Yeah.
gonna- Not listen. Far be it from me
Right.
to.
to
I don't
tell
think you should do any of this.
Yes.
But just seem like if you're gonna do it, that's not a very efficient way.
Yeah, and then once it happened, like 2 minutes later, they was like back on the air. Everything was fine, and they continued on with the game.
Whoa.
Yeah, I love. They have a quote from the announcer Gottlieb, and he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, a tremendous thing just happened. A gentleman has shot himself. I return you now to the studio."
What?
I'm like,
Oh my
man,
God.
that's,
He tells
that's a
the
pretty
audience?
professional guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I also like that in 1950s he described it as tremendous because I associate tremendous with positive.
yeah.
That's right.
A really tremendous thing.
Oh my gosh.
I'm really into death, guys. A spectacular suicide
awesome.
just happened right in front of me.
Fabulous.
That
death.
doesn't happen every
No,
day.
I wrong trust the words.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Joe,
And they found. Oh, go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say, Joe's told me several stories about pro wrestling deaths and injuries where they go on with the show right after that.
Well, the I don't know if you guys know Owen Hart. He was Bret Hart's brother, and he was, I guess he was the Blue Blazer, and they were doing a thing where you've probably heard of this. Have you heard? You know what I'm talking about? Where they dropped him from the thing, and he died before the match started, and they kept going.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird because, like, I think no one's prepared for that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how to respond to it. It was like, what should we do? People paid their money.
The
We
show
got
must go
TV
on.
time.
Yeah.
There's like no right answer to like. There's stuff that I think will make people maybe feel better. Like this year we had, Kobe Bryant passed away, who's, he's an ex-NBA player, but huge legend to the game, friend of all these guys on the court. And like some teams, they played the game. Some teams, they didn't play the game. This is like, no one's ready for someone to just die. Or, I mean, in this case, this guy just pulled a last Boy Scout in the middle of the damn baseball game. There's nothing you can do for.
I forgot about Last Boy Scout.
Like, because if you're on the air and you're just like, oh my god, y'all, shit, y'all are not gonna believe what just happened. Like,
You can't do that either. You can't go to that extreme either. Y'all are not gonna believe what I just saw.
put the camera on this, guys. Like,
I would think,
there's no right answer.
between every bat and everything, Jesus, I can't believe that guy killed himself. Can you believe that?
Right.
Holy shit! Oh my goodness!
I don't know if they had the censor button. It was like beep 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 beep
What
beep.
the
Bottom of the sixth, the Black Crackers are up 5-4, and God, man, that dude really did it.
I can't believe it. They're carrying the bio away, guys.
Right.
Now I love when something like that
Gotta-
happens. I love they always say he would have wanted us to play the game. Like, oh, that's what he would have
Yeah.
wanted. You don't know what he would have wanted.
Well, no one knows what he would have wanted.
Nobody.
Got a shot down the line drive. Speaking of shots, that dude killed
I
himself.
still can't believe that
That's
guy killed
crazy.
himself, and his blood is still all over my suit. It's all over the place.
But yeah, he put he had a suicide note to say, I leave all my possessions to my boy Bailey 20, Anderson, South Carolina, and my wife has my insurance policy, and that was all.
Wow. Huh.
So they don't.
didn't-
They don't know why.
Yeah, he didn't say why. Like, what was wrong?
No, they never said why.
They never
Just
said why.
No.
That's nuts.
Check me out in the fifth.
Yeah, that's crazy. We covered in the 60s, there was a senator or a congressman. I think it was a congressman or something. Or
But what was his name? Buzz.
Bud something.
Bud. Yeah.
Man, like Bud Dwyer.
Yeah,
maybe?
that's right.
And he like was in a press conference and shot himself in the head
Through his mouth.
in the middle of the
chin, I think it was.
He was like, I just want to say one thing.
And you can see it. You
And
can watch it.
it's on YouTube. You can watch it. I wasn't. I look away every time. I haven't been able to watch it, but Amy watched it
Of course.
because she loves gruesome, gross, awful things.
It's just a fascination.
Oh, I don't think I could watch it without having nightmares about it. Like, ugh.
It's pretty rough.
That's crazy. Yeah, shit like that is so nuts.
Yeah, you just never know, man.
Yeah.
You just one day you're broadcasting a game, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
you got somebody's. Because he also, when he shot himself, his body fell on top of the engineer.
Oh my gosh.
So like you got that going. It's just a lot of shit happening right in that.
And
then you gotta announce the game.
that poor engineer. Yeah, he continued to work. Right? They did the show.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure in school to become a broadcaster this is what you do in case somebody shoots us on your eyes. I guarantee you that is nowhere in your syllabus.
Yeah, Kay, you said it right. It was just people were different then. Like it was a different kind of people.
Yeah.
Like they just go on with that's nuts. So is that
Yeah, that's
what
the
you
story.
got?
Oh, thank you guys. That was great.
that was good. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
thanks for picking that one and covering that so I didn't have to. June 13th, 1950, all programs of the CBS television network were halted when 400 technicians went on strike in New York and in Hollywood. Did you know about the 1950 strike? I didn't.
There were so many strikes in the 1950s. I get them mixed up.
Yeah.
You get them all mixed up together.
Yeah.
We're going to jump all the way to June 17th, 1950, which was a Saturday. The first human organ transplant in history was performed at the Little Company of Mary Hospital in the Chicago suburb of Evergreen Park, Illinois. The surgery was performed by a team led by Dr. Richard M. Lawler. You guys want to guess what organ it was? The first organ transplant in history?
The heart.
Nah, that's Charles. What's his name?
Okay.
I'm gonna go with appendix.
liver.
No, the pancreas.
Pancreas. That's a good one. Do you want to guess?
I'm going to say the left testicle.
The left testicle. Is that kind of an organ?
I guess that's
it
an organ.
is. Maybe it is.
I don't know.
I don't know. No, you guys are both wrong. It is a kidney.
Oh.
Ruth Tucker of Jasper, Indiana, received a kidney from an unidentified woman who had died an hour earlier from cirrhosis of the liver and would survive for 5 more years after the operation.
Okay. That's the first time, huh?
That was the first time they ever did anything.
June 17, 1950 was the first time we translated
1950.
Wow.
An organ.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, what made... I wonder if they did animal organs before that. Because, like, what would make you think,
We'll just stick
let's
this
try
right here.
this? Like,
Yeah.
let's start with this one. Like, I wonder
sure.
if they must have tried animals or something first.
And did you say if they lived or died or?
She lived for 5 more years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I count that as a win. If I
Yeah,
was
5 years is...
the kidney
Yeah,
doctor.
5 years is pretty
In
good.
1950,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, they consider the first couple heart ones, the people only lived a couple hours, and they consider that it was a success. So,
Oh, okay. There you go.
It all depends on your perspective.
yeah, I guess. I don't know why. I wouldn't say that's a success, but... okay, this is going to take us to June 20th, 1950, which is a Tuesday, and baseball's New York Giants signed 17-year-old Willie Mays to a contract. At the time, Mays was a high school student who began playing professional baseball in 1948, first with the Chattanooga Choo-Choos, then with the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro American League. And so we were talking about some of these names. And I'm going to give you his bio real quick before we get into those names, because I didn't know any of these names, so I'm excited to hear them. But he participated in the 1948 Negro World Series, then was signed by the Giants once he graduated high school in 50. He made his MLB debut in 1951, went on to win Rookie of the Year award. I know you hate sports, but...
No, this is important.
But do you
Yeah.
know who Willie Mays is?
Yeah.
Have you heard of him? Okay.
Yeah.
He was drafted by the U.S. Army for the Korean War, and he spent most of 52 and 53 in the military. Returning to the Giants in 1954, he was then named National League Most Valuable Player after leading the NL in batting with a .345 batting average. That's insane. I don't know if you guys like baseball, but 345 is really good. He made one of the most famous plays of all time in the 1954 World Series when he made an over-the-shoulder catch of a Vic Wertz fly ball to keep the Cleveland Indians from taking the lead in Game 1. That catch became the Willie Mays. Like it's the catch. It's like he just running and just catches it like this. I mean, I remember in Little League.
You're on a podcast, honey. Nobody can see you.
Nobody can see me. I remember in Little League, people would always, my friends would always try to do that. Anyway, the other teams in the Negro Southern League, which he was in, the Charlotte Black Hornets, the New Orleans Black Pelicans. Did you guys know about them?
No, I don't know about the Black Pelicans. I do like that they use the same naming strategies,
right?
Yeah,
that DC uses whenever they have a black superhero.
Yeah,
it's like he's Black Lightning. I'm like, okay, sure,
real creative.
Yeah. Black Falcon. I'm like, is there even a white Falcon?
It's like black exploitation has bled out into all these different mediums or something.
Well, in these cases, some of these cases, there was a baseball team called the Charlotte Hornets, and so that was a white baseball minor league team, I guess. And so the Charlotte Black Hornets was the Negro League team, and then the same. I don't know about the Pelicans, but with the Atlanta Black Crackers, there was the Atlanta Crackers, that was a white team. And then the Birmingham Clowns was the other one.
What a name.
Birmingham Clowns. Like,
that's so not, I don't know.
Intimidating.
Exactly.
I'm scared of clowns myself.
Oh, I guess you're right.
Clowns can be creepy. But they probably didn't mean it. Who knows what they meant.
They didn't mean it like a killer clown, I don't think.
But, so I looked up, fell down another rabbit hole with this Atlanta Black Crackers. I couldn't believe that existed, or that the Atlanta Crackers existed. I was like, I can't believe Cracker. What? They named their team Crackers? And then I kind of looked up it's not clear online, on Wikipedia at least, what it meant. Like, did they mean what people call crackers as today? Or, but some people, there was some thought that it might be short for firecrackers. Like, it might have been the firecrackers.
That will make sense.
And, like, they meant, like, cracker, I guess, was a slang term in the 50s for somebody who's quick and efficient at a task. Also, it was a slang term for somebody who cracks jokes. So it could have been any of these, really, but they weren't really sure.
So when did it start becoming like for white people a thing?
I don't know.
No.
I didn't really find the whole history of it, but I was telling Amy.
Yeah, I think that goes all the way back. Like, they used to call white people crackers because they were like, they whipped crackers.
That's right.
I told Amy that just the other day, and I recently found that out probably in the last 5 years. I always thought it was cracker like a saltine because people are so white, like white.
The saltines are white.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought too.
And then once I found out it meant that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, geez, that's horrible. Like, so you would call a white person who's an asshole that more than anything, probably.
Yeah.
Like, fucking cracker. Like, so that I think that was crazy, and I think a lot of white people probably have no idea.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they must not even had an idea in the 1950s to name their team that, unless they were like, we're gonna take it back, man. You know what I mean?
We're gonna own it.
We're gonna own it. Okay, we're just gonna live right up to it. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so crazy.
In 1950, I could just see them like, oh well, where are the crackers? Like, because we're so fast.
Well, there was an 1892. There was an 1892 minor league team called the Crackers. Well, you know what?
Now they probably.
You know what I found out is, well, Amy, you told me this because you were doing that study of what is it, the white racism and
me. It was me and white supremacy.
Me and white supremacy. Workbook that white people should be doing to, like, even if you're not racist and you don't think you're like, you need to work on yourself too and know the history and all this. And so she started this group with coworkers, and I overheard them talking, and they said the word gal is a racist term. Did you guys ever hear that before? Gal? That it's a racist term?
That's the first time I heard that one.
I could see it being, I could see people interpreting it like that just from the fact that a lot of the slave owners would call women gals, kind of to demean them, almost like a child type thing. That's why a lot of
I think that's what
men consider boy as like like almost like a slur. It depends on who you're talking with. And because it was like almost like a getting your place, like child, almost like a property.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so that would be I might be wrong, but that's my interpretation on
I think that's close to
that.
it or something, but I always thought, I never knew that was a thing, so it's, it's surprising. So I think everybody needs to take the time to do all that, but I guess everything was different. The slang, you hear somebody talking in the 50s, you barely know what they're saying because they're saying so many
Well, and it's
crazy.
probably, the sad thing is it's probably all racist if you really dig deep enough.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
so much.
of the slang.
So much.
Yeah, the terminology may have changed. Like, we have different meanings for the words now. And for a lot of people nowadays, those terms might not even bother them. But, it's just like you say, if you know the history of it, you can go, oh, okay, I understand if I say something or do something, why the person got offended versus me going, well, I don't understand the hostility.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, back to Willie Mays. A couple of things. According to The Life, the Legend by James Hirsch, a biography, not autobiography, Mays' flashy style of play stemmed partly from his days in the Negro Leagues, according to this biography. Willie Mays said, "We were all entertainers. My job was to give the fans something to talk about each game. He wore his cap one size larger than necessary so that it would fly off when he was running the bases or making fielding plays. Sometimes he would deliberately slip to the ground for catches in order to make them look tougher than they really were." So he was like really trying to entertain, which is crazy to hear. And then,
well, that was the thing about Negro League. They had to be more entertaining and flamboyant, with their league to get attention.
Oh, yeah.
So, they would have like Satchel Paige go out and do like a whole routine on his pitches, and they would run the base certain ways, and have more swagger and stuff. And then, of course, Major League Baseball to this day still has like a really strict, like kind of a bunch of unspoken rules, against flashiness. You can't flip a bat. You can't,
your hat's got to be straight.
When you hit a home run, you're not supposed to like look at the home run when it goes out. You're supposed to like just kind of acknowledge like I hit a home run and that's no big deal. So it's so weird.
That's why it's so boring. I mean,
yeah. I mean, all jokes aside, like yes, and so I think for me, they also knew their audience. Like the audiences were different. When you have an audience that a lot of people are used to the flashing and the dancing and the hooping and the hollering because it's a part of our culture. Because what I've realized is a lot of times when a lot of black and brown people like something, they'll let you know up front by going, woo, go girl. A lot of white people, they might not say anything. You might get a clap and they'll come at the end and be like, that was good.
Yes. Yeah,
it's just and it doesn't mean they don't like it. It's just a different way to voice how they felt about something. And those differences are fine, but the problem is when people are like, well, my way is the only way. That's when that conflict comes in.
Or my way is normal and your way is different. Like that's artificial.
That reminds me of you guys know the comedian Sam Jay? She's a writer for SNL. She's a stand-up comedian. Anyway, I've met her a couple of times, and she was saying she was saying this in an interview, not to me, but I heard an interview on, I don't know if it was NPR or a I think it was on a podcast. I think it was on the Comedian podcast. I'm not sure, but she was saying how when she first started performing with mostly white audiences, she thought she was bombing. Just like you're saying, because they weren't hooping and hollering. But then afterwards, they come up to her and be like, "You did a great job. This was awesome." She's like, "Oh, I thought you hated it. I thought I was doing terrible." But she was used to a noisier audience or a louder audience, and it might have actually even been in the UK. Like she might have been maybe not just white people. It was like the UK. They don't clap. They don't laugh. They don't make any noise.
Yeah.
But later they tell you they like it. That might have been what I can't remember. But that's an interesting thing how you said that. It's like, but you think of like black church and white church. Like white church is awful. At least the ones I've gone to.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's cool if you want to get out on time and be at the game. I appreciate it for that.
Oh yeah, that we're gonna get to Olive Garden by 10:30. That's right.
Don't mess around.
Yeah. I guess that's right. One thing about that I also read about Willie Mays is that I guess Jackie Robinson and Hank Aaron were kind of upset with Willie Mays because he really remained silent on race issues. He didn't really complain about discriminatory practices that affected him. And his thought was his job was to play baseball, not talk about social issues. He said, I'm a ball player. I'm not a politician or a writer or a historian. I can do best for my people by doing what I do best. So I just thought that was an interesting thing about that. Like, you know.
And you know what's interesting about what you just said? People feel that way today. And I don't feel like people ought to be pressured to speak on these things. You know, if you choose to, great. If you don't, I understand. Like, I understand both perspectives. There shouldn't be a pressure, because truthfully, when things happen, nobody throws microphones in white people's faces and asks them how do they feel about inequality. Now, I'm not trying to be funny and things like that, but for some reason, black and brown people are supposed to hold this mantle of and being obligated to speak about things that they might not know anything about, they might not be educated on, and particularly in today's era, me and Roger talked about this, people always tell people to speak up until they say something stupid. So sometimes their silence might be the best thing.
Yeah. Also, it's just like the assumption is that they're going to say something you agree with or like, and it's just like,
Can't
you know,
guarantee that.
if Twitter's proving anything, we don't know.
Well, can you imagine 1950? Like, what would you even know that you could say? Like, you have to be so hushed about everything.
There must have been fear there too, because
I'm sure.
He probably played in the South, and I mean, I don't know where they all played, but you have to be so brave back then.
It's nuts.
Yeah, and it's like, how much do you want to say? How you know, also it does kind of distract from whatever you're trying to do on the field and stuff. I think if we've gotten more outspoken over the years, people have gotten more outspoken in general, that now we take it for granted. But there was a time where it was like, you say that stuff and it's like, actually you don't have a job anymore.
Right.
Well, I
You
mean,
won't
look at Colin Kaepernick.
ever play baseball.
Colin Kaepernick still
Kaepernick,
happening.
that was not long ago.
And also, I guess the way I look at it too, y'all have to think back in the 1950s, you're also talking about segregation, Jim Crow, kind of around that time.
Yeah.
So he was a little kid when a lot of these things were happening. So you know, who knows how he's had to adapt to survive. So it's a survival technique too, which people can't overlook.
Well, and I like the point of him just saying, like, why do I, just because I'm black, I have to always be an advocate? I always have to stand up. Can't I just be a baseball player too? So, I mean,
I mean, it's interesting because like Hank Aaron's a baseball player as well. So I guess it's like critique coming from another person that's in your field. But like I said, I think if anything, we have the proof now that not everything is for everybody. Like, you know, it's like, you need to speak up on race. And then Kanye West is like, slavery was a choice. Like,
not you, sir.
Maybe you don't need to speak up. You can go back to rapping.
So sometimes being quiet is a good thing.
Well, and now that's true, but Kanye West is also insane.
Yeah, that's true too. But I mean, I remember when he used to first come out and he would rap, and his raps he'd talk about race, and it was all like stuff I agree with. It was all like stuff that was like, oh yeah, he understands systemic oppression and he understands this and that. His mom was like a professor that taught these things, and then at some point it was like, oh no, you can stop now. We've had enough. It's fine to go back to doing whatever you were doing. I like your music.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Like this,
Like, what happened?
Like, what happened to him? Like, was it drugs, or did he just?
Well, I know his mom died. That was
traumatic for him.
Yeah, it was big for him. And then I think he always was dealing with, I mean, you know, not to be too much of a downer, but he was always dealing with bipolar disorder. And I think it's hard for it's hard for people to associate someone being successful and then also having like a debilitating mental illness. Yeah. Because we're like, you have money and fame. Right. Like, you did everything. And it's like, but your brain chemistry doesn't care about that. And and I know he would say he would go off his meds to do his creative projects because he thought it made it better, which is a thing a lot of, you know, bipolar people and manic depressive people deal with. And so I think that's when you get those interviews and stuff. And then it just kind of always seems like Kanye goes away for a long time. And it's normally because he's, you know, probably back on his meds and on a good routine and all that stuff. So I think that's the mystery behind Kanye West.
Those Kardashians can't be good for him either. Yeah,
well, you know, I mean, I don't think the Kardashians are good for
anybody.
Like, Yeah, there's no like good scenario, but I don't like hate the Kardashians either, because it's like, I think it's a weird combo of like, the reason a lot of people don't like them is because they're like women that made money being like beautiful and sexy and selling selling like gossip amongst each other in their family life. And so it's like this really weird line where I'm like, I don't really support them, but I don't really want to hate them, because
you don't wanna hate
like
on
you'll hear
women.
people say stuff like oh, they ruined Lamar Odom's life. I'm like, Lamar Odom was on drugs. He was a drug addict before this. Like, it's a lot of stuff that has to happen to ruin someone's life. I don't think that they solely ruined his life. And meanwhile, it's like, those are two guys on SportsCenter being mad at the Kardashians. I'm like, what you're covering is a big soap opera.
Yeah, that's true.
Is this NBA player gonna talk to this guy when they see each other? Like, it's still soap opera. It's Kardashians with basketball.
Yeah, I guess I just look at them as like, just like Paris Hilton and all that, like just super rich, white, out of touch people that like, they don't.
Which everyone apparently wants to see.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
they do.
like
because the top rated shows and people
It's like the Royals. Like, why do you care about the Royals? Like, people are fascinated by how rich people live. It's crazy. I mean, look at Trump.
It's crazy.
Trump is the way he is because people are fascinated by that. Here's this
Yep.
rich guy who's never had to do anything, and he doesn't give a shit about me, but I want to just watch how he lives. Like, I don't.
It's us, man. We are the calls coming from within the house.
Really.
It's like,
coming from
why are the Kardashians such a big deal? I'll find out tonight at 9.
That's exactly right. Okay. So that really got off on a
tangent.
We got into the Kardashians.
Shout out to Willie Mays.
How can you talk to the Kardashians? Yeah, Willie Mays to the Kardashians. How does that happen? Okay, that brings us all the way to June 23rd, 1950. It was a Friday, and Amy's got a big, long, crazy story to tell us.
All right. I'm going to talk about the disappearance of Northwest Airline Flight 2501.
Okay.
So this is June 23rd, 1950. And I got, I'm going to quote up top here from MichiganShipwrecks.org. They had they set the stage really good.
Okay.
So that's why I'm using this.
MichiganShipwrecks.org.
Yes.
Okay.
It was the day before North Korea invaded South Korea, prompting President Harry S. Truman to commit U.S. forces to defend the country. On the radio, Nat King Cole, Doris Day, and the Ames brothers were singing the latest tunes just a few years before rock and roll would debut.
Oh.
So we're not yet at rock and roll.
Rock and roll is not even a thing yet.
In the few homes equipped with that new invention, the television set, families were watching Snooky Lanson singing the week's top songs on Your Hit Parade.
Ha.
And so in New York that evening, it was a warm but pleasant night. Passengers who boarded Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 bound for Seattle, Washington, with a scheduled stopover in Minneapolis, Minnesota, were looking forward to a long but comfortable flight.
Okay.
And the airplane was a Douglas DC-4 airliner. It had 4 Pratt & Whitney R2000 Wasp engines. Whatever, who cares, right?
You guys know what that means?
Oh yeah, of course. You know, we go way back in the engine game.
Right.
I'm assuming they was bees was doing the work.
Right.
Wasp game.
The flight lifted off on time from New York's LaGuardia Airport at 7:30 p.m. and headed west under clear skies. The pilot was 35-year-old Captain Robert C. Lind of Hopkins, Minnesota. The co-pilot, Vern F. Wolf, also 35, of Minneapolis. And then there was 25-year-old stewardess, Bonnie Ann Feldman. And there was 55 passengers, 27 women, 22 men, and 6 children. So the flight passes safely over Cleveland, Ohio, and continues west toward Minneapolis, Minnesota, which was a major hub for Northwest Airlines.
Okay.
As they pass over Battle Creek, Michigan at 11:51 p.m., Captain Lind notifies the Air Traffic Control Center at Chicago by radio that he estimated passing over Milwaukee around 11:37.
Okay.
He was flying level at 3,500 feet. As the plane reached the lake shore at 12:13 a.m. that evening, Captain Lind, knowing of some storms over Lake Michigan, requested clearance from air traffic control to 2,500 feet, but he was denied because there was other traffic in the area.
Okay.
That was the last communication from Flight 2501. Her disappearance marked the largest aviation disaster in world history to that point.
Okay.
which wasn't really that long of a time if you think about it.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I always wonder, like, when did we even start flying? Like,
Commercially,
yeah.
there's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to know. We can't Google it.
No way to find out.
We'll insert that later.
Yeah. Okay.
How brave was the first person to hop on a commercial
Oh,
flight?
can you imagine?
Seriously.
Man.
It's probably safe. I don't know. I can't
Right.
imagine.
I hope we
it
get
is.
there.
Well, and as we're doing research, like every year, there's like 45 of these plane crashes or something like that. I'm just like deleting half of them. You had to have just heard about plane crashes all the time. I don't know. Like even in the 60s, there was a lot. So yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I'm still scared. All right, go ahead.
So Captain Lind had flown for Northwest Airlines since 1941. He had flown 15 round trips to New York and Minneapolis in the 90 days prior to this flight. And so he had a lot of experience.
Okay.
The co-pilot had been with Northwest Airlines almost as long as Captain Lind had, and he was capable as well.
Okay.
The crew checked in with Northwest Flight Control Operations Center at LaGuardia Airport to prepare for the flight. The weather all along the route was carefully checked and a flight plan arranged to avoid unfavorable conditions and bring the plane in on time. So everything, they did all the prep work that they should have
Yeah,
done.
so it shouldn't have been anything wrong there, and not in ineptitude. But it sounds like whatever he wanted to avoid by going lower, and they wouldn't let him, is probably the issue.
That's right. So by 11:51 p.m., Flight 2501 had entered the vicinity of a growing storm.
Okay.
Captain Lind reported he was over Battle Creek at 3,500 feet and would reach Milwaukee by 11:37. As he neared the lakeshore, he made his last transmission, requesting a further drop in altitude. Okay, and I already talked about that.
Yeah, you did do it.
So on the other side of the lake, just before midnight, Northwest Radio at Milwaukee advised New York, Minneapolis, and Chicago that the flight was overdue. At that point, all the Civil Aeronautics Administration radio stations attempted to contact the overdue flight on all frequencies, but they couldn't find it.
Yeah,
And they didn't know where
they
it
never
was,
answered.
and they realized it was missing. So by dawn, it became clear that it had crashed somewhere. At 5:30 a.m., Saturday, June 24th.
Oh.
Did I not give you that?
Oh, you didn't give me that date. Darn it, because I have something good for June 28th.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Saturday, June 24th. I might have, hold on.
This is where we edit.
Nope, dang it, I don't have anything.
Sorry, forgot. Okay.
Oh,
The
well.
plane officially was presumed lost. Wait, let me just start that again so you can edit.
Okay, I'll edit all this out.
By dawn's light, it became clear that the DC-4 had crashed. At 5:30 a.m. on Saturday, June 24th, the plane officially was presumed lost, and as the fuel supply would have been exhausted by then.
Okay.
So they knew. At daybreak, the search and rescue team began an intense search on the fog-covered lake. So they got the Coast Guard, they got the Navy, the state police from Illinois and Michigan. So everybody's looking for this flight. And they found an oil slick on Lake Michigan, aircraft debris, and an airline logbook floating many miles from the shore. And they used sonar, and they could tell that there was other sonar targets under the water. But at this point, they didn't find any big...
They didn't find a big plane, though.
No. So they focused the recovery on the floating debris, and there was seat cushions, clothing, blankets, luggage, cabin lining, and tragically, there was also plenty of body parts.
Just body parts floating around?
Mm-hmm. And at the time, authorities wanted to determine whether the plane suffered a midair explosion or whether it struck the water intact. And they couldn't tell that because they can't find it. So the loss of Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 represented the worst commercial aviation disaster to that time. Initial reports suggested the plane exploded in midair with debris falling into the lake between Glen and South Haven, Michigan. So they found out as much as they could.
But they didn't find enough, even if the whole plane exploded, they didn't find enough to be equal to a whole plane, right?
Right.
Like it was...
Right.
This plane's still missing.
And they trawled the bottom of Lake Michigan, too, and they couldn't find it.
Huh.
So, hold on one sec. Let me see. Berrien County Prosecutor Louis Kurlikowski and U.S. Coast Guard officials initially speculated the plane may have twisted in the high winds, causing a spark which ignited the fuel tanks. So there was sensational newspaper reports detailed the recovery of all the body parts and the clothing and everything else. At one point, workers were dipping their hands into the lake to recover body parts. Authorities in South Haven closed the popular South Beach for 9 days after the crash due to the large number of body parts that washed in among the bathers.
Oh, God. Imagine just swimming on the beach and body parts are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, do you want to go? Like, I guess there were people that were like, I can't wait till they get done with these body parts so I can go back.
No.
I gotta get this ear off of me.
Yeah.
Oh, and I found out that Tony Jonas, if I'm pronouncing this name right, conducted the first U.S. scheduled commercial flight January the 1st, 1914.
Oh, my gosh, that long
for
ago.
the Pittsburgh Tampa airport line. That line probably don't even exist anymore.
That was a commercial flight, 1914. Wow.
I
Yeah.
never would have
January
thought
the
that
1st.
far ago.
Wow.
Brave souls.
Gosh. Oh, yeah.
So, Monday, June 26, 1950. The South Haven Tribune quoted retired U.S. Navy man Lieutenant Commander R.T. Helm as saying he had witnessed the plane fly over his home at 12:20 a.m. Minutes later, he said there was a terrific flash out on the lake. So he speculated the pilot was looking for a place to land. He said, I heard the plane over my home at about 12:20 a.m. Saturday. I took a look out of the window, and he seemed to be flying pretty low. How low, I don't know. And he was later ordered to testify to.
So he saw a flash, like lightning flash or something? Mm-hmm. Maybe lightning hit it?
Oh, from the storm.
Yeah, maybe it exploded.
That's what most people are.
But where are the main pieces? That's what I don't get. Like the big pieces.
Right. Yeah. So Wednesday, June 28th, 1950.
Oh, June 28th, 1950, the same night that on CBS, Tony Twin Time was on. It was a live CBS variety show hosted by then utterly unknown Jack Lemmon. It was basically a talent show that habitually promoted Tony home permanence, using guest sets of twins, one who would demonstrate the advantage of a home perm, and one which wouldn't. And then you had to guess which one has the Tony. So the Tony twins.
Tony, I remember that brand.
You do?
Yes.
Tony home permanence? Did you ever do a home
I've
permanent?
Yes, when I was in the 80s, I did my share of home permanents.
You did a home permanent? Wow, that's crazy. When I was in middle school, it was this fad. All the guys in my class got permanents. Not all of them, but like 6, the popular kids all got permanents. And they were the boys. I don't know why.
Karen, did you
Something
ever?
about that time frame, man.
Karen, did you ever get a permanent?
Yeah, here, I mean, when I was coming up, we just called them perms.
Perms, yeah. Perms, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even
That's
know.
like old school.
Yeah.
I got to say, I don't know what is it? Is it
Or it makes your hair curly.
Is it a liquid you put in your hair?
Yes, and it stinks.
And how does it, it's like, so it's not the, or,
I have no idea what.
I don't know,
works.
women put those things over their heads, like, and they
Yeah.
put that, oh, yeah, I guess I never really knew.
Yeah, because it's different, because I know what Roger's talking about. For you guys, your hair texture is different than ours. So
right.
you put things in your hair to make your hair turn curly. On our side, we actually use relaxers, and because relaxers relaxes the curl pattern in our hair. And so on our side, we call relaxers and perms the same thing, but technically they're not the same thing. Right. We just intertwine the word, because people say, I got a relaxer, I got a perm. But I realized just talking to different people, people look at me like I'm crazy going, why would you put that in your hair? Then I had to understand just the difference between the texture of the hair and who's talking.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
sense.
point. Yeah, it's different, whole different thing. How did we get on that? Oh, the show.
Was
The show.
the
That's
perms.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tony.
sorry.
Yeah,
Duh, I just
Tony's.
said that. I'm an idiot.
Okay.
All right.
So there was an eyewitness report. William Bowie, who operated a restaurant gas station in the tiny crossroads of Glen, vividly related to the Holland Sentinel the story of how he was sitting in front of his station at 12:15 a.m. on Saturday and saw the plane cruise over the area, heard its motors plunk twice, and saw a queer flash of light. He claimed to have 10 witnesses to the incident, and 4 of them spoke with reporters, including Mr. and Mrs. Bowie, Danny Thompson, and Arnold Rapp.
Okay.
All were sitting in their cars in front of the gas station waiting for the power to come back on after a fierce lightning storm had caused an outage. They saw the plane approach from the northeast, follow the highway almost to Glen, then veer out west over the lake. They contend the plane's engines were not operating properly, and one of them reportedly yelled, "Bring that plane down here, buddy. We'll fix it up for you." Thompson stated the plane's engine sounded like a stock car with a blown head gasket. And then Bowie reported a funny yellow light trailing from the wing.
A yellow light.
Yeah, she said,
like fire?
Quote, her quote is, "All of a sudden there was this flash. It was a funny light. It looked like the sun was when it goes down. It lasted only a second and then it was gone." So they tried to since then figure out what happened, but they have not been able to. There is, if you go to any UFO website, it is certainly Strange Anomaly. It's posted on all of those.
So it could be a UFO.
Because some people in Wisconsin thought they saw a bright light over the lake about 2 hours after the event.
Ooh.
So.
Okay.
They could be on an island somewhere and they're already dead, but we have to wait 4 seasons to find out.
Right. That's true.
I never watched that show, but now I don't think I can because it's like already ruined.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's hilarious. Okay. Well, thanks for telling us that UFO story.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's a UFO story.
I know. I tried to. There really isn't a UFO story, so. He wanted a UFO story.
Well, okay, I'm gonna try to quickly say this next thing, just because I don't. It's so hard to know as I go through the history. Like we're not a. I guess we're kind of a history podcast, but I'm trying to just talk about the goofy and weird, sometimes tragic things. But like when we cover Vietnam, like I didn't really cover Vietnam. Like I didn't want to get into the weeds
war.
about like what caused Vietnam and all the because there's just so much and. I'm not, we don't know. So now we're in the Korean War. And so it basically started, North Korea started attacking South Korea. Nobody knows why. And then everybody else gets involved. But on June 29th, on the 27th, U.S. President Harry S. Truman ordered warships from the U.S. 7th Fleet to assist South Korean forces in the resistance of the North Korean invasion. And then on June 29th, U.S. President Harry S. Truman held a press conference where the phrase police action was first used to describe the Korean War. One reporter prefaced a question with the statement, "Mr. President, everybody's asking in this country, are we or are we not at war?" To which Truman replied, "We are not at war." Another reporter, not identified in the record, followed up a few minutes later with the question, "Mr. President, would it be correct against your explanation to call this a police action under the United Nations?" And Truman responded, "Yes, that's exactly what it amounts to." And one observer would note later that Truman was constrained to answer that way in that he had not asked the U.S. Congress to declare war and did not want to validate the charge that he had circumvented the Constitution. So he had to make up this police thing. So it reminds me of kind of stuff, Trump is doing and people do now because they don't want to involve the other side and have to go through all the things. So they just do it wrong, do it in the wrong way.
They sneak around regulations.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, it's so weird that our Constitution is like, you can't go to war. President can't declare war by himself. But, like, call it something else.
Yeah.
And send the troops and the guns over there. And you're like, wow, that doesn't seem very airtight at all.
They call it the police action. I remember us always, all throughout my life, we've heard about U.S. is always the police of the world.
Right.
We are always the police. And I don't know. I'm sometimes like, why are we involved everywhere? And I always feel like it's always motivated by something else. Usually oil.
It's just, it's just weird that you can be like, it's the Iraqi dust up, and you're like, I think this is still a war.
Nothing more than a dust up.
Why are we shipping all these Humvees over there?
Why are we calling it a cute name?
Yeah, call it something else. And there was something, I guess I cut out for time, but there was a whole thing about the United Nations and agreeing. Yugoslavia didn't agree to join forces with South Korea, and Russia like backed out of the UN. But then it got really into the weeds about UN history, and it just gets in so much that I'll say something stupid that's wrong, and then I'll have to apologize later. So I'll just cut all that.
From personal experience.
Yeah, just know the Korean War was happening. So in case that happens, yeah. And then on June 30th, Friday, the last day of June, Robert Dale Sedgy, and we just kept this short. Amy was going to cover this, but it kind of isn't really 1950, but
I thought we were going to wait until...
Well, we'll cover this guy later, but I'm just going to give you a preview of what this happened, just because this is interesting. He was a patient in a mental institution, and he was a former circus worker. He confessed to the Ohio State Fire Marshal as having been the person who caused the Hartford Circus Fire, which killed 167 people in 1944. But Sedgy would later recant the confession, and in 1993, a Connecticut State Police investigation would conclude that the blaze had been started by accident. So I guess the plan is to get really into that fire in the 40s when it actually happens, when we get to that in 100 more episodes or whatever else.
But this is when he
confessed. Later he was in a mental institution.
Confession?
Yeah, and he confessed, and then he recanted it, and they don't even know. So, but it makes me wonder what was the Hartford Circus Fire, and I was going to look it up.
Yeah.
I thought you would cover it, and then you chose the other thing to cover.
A circus fire sounds terrible, but also that many people dying in a fire. That's so many
That's
people.
a lot. 167 people.
And then ultimately being an accident, it's like, if that many people die in a fire, it should be on purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
It should be. Yeah, it should
lot of
be.
people.
Well, and man, imagine how bad the circus. I mean, the circus now is terrible to animals and to probably people. Imagine how terrible it was
Yeah,
then.
they basically stopped functioning. Most circuses don't function. I know the biggest one, they have smaller versions, like the Soul Circus, but like Ringling Brothers, like they literally had to shut down because, all jokes aside, people were there for the animals. People don't want to admit that. That's what they were there for, and then you take the animals away and people stop attending.
Yeah, because what else do you want to see? You want to see animals doing those tricks, but then you're right. Once you find out that it's because they're beaten really hard and they're treated like shit, it's just, I think when our kids were little, we took them to a small little circus, like a small traveling.
I would never do it again.
And it was like at a mall parking lot or something.
Yep,
and it was just, awful.
The animals looked terrible.
Oh, they looked awful and haggard and abused, and it was just awful. Like everything else. I mean, the one thing we're finding out through this podcast is pretty much everything in history sucks. Everything is awful.
Which makes sense because
our whole country is built on awfulness and hatred and horribleness.
And lies.
Like everything.
It makes sense because, like, if you think about the problems we have today, today is the best that it's ever been.
Best version.
So, like, as you go back further, it's just like, oh, it was even worse. Oh, that was.
Yeah, I love it. Today is the best it's ever been, and it's fucking awful.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Right.
It's miserable.
Yeah, so
I tell my kids all the time, my son's always like, why is this? Oh, it's because everything's shitty. We're built on awfulness and horribleness and terrible awfulness. Like George Washington ripped slaves' teeth out of their mouths. Like, that's why, it's
right.
Oh, like, just
we never even, like, in school, they just told us that it was wooden.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
That's why they lied to you.
And I'm like, because the truth was much worse.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, and he couldn't tell a lie. That was the other part we learned in school.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And I think for me, people wonder why when people run on the motto "Make America Great Again," why subsections of people go, "We don't want to go back."
Exactly right.
Well, that's exactly. When do you think it was great? When when you had
those are the questions that start arising, and nobody wants to answer those questions.
Well, I think the selection of that motto was very purposeful. And it
to get the Proud Boys and all those people already.
It speaks. Yeah, it's kind of saying let's go back to where you had all the power, white male, and it's just sickening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too because like no one ever asked why the hell did George Washington chop down that cherry tree?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of psychopath just chops down a cherry tree for no fucking reason?
What did he have against cherries?
That's right.
Yeah, I like cherries.
Yeah, darn it.
Amy misses her cherry. No, I'm just kidding. That's what she always used to say. Anyway, thank you guys for being here on our podcast.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you for having us.
I don't know where you found an hour and a half to sit and talk to us when you have several episodes. You have to record your 2-hour episodes. But I know you're very busy and that you guys are a big deal. So it really means a lot to me and us. So thank you guys for being here. You guys are so cool.
Well, thank y'all for having us.
This was fun.
Yeah, it's a great show, and we'd love to come back.
Just let us know.
Honestly, if you will, we would love it, and we will try not to bug you too much to come back all the time because I know you're busy. But Thank you. You guys are so much fun. I would just love to sit and talk to you for hours.
Oh man, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. It's
Thanks
nice
for being
meeting you.
here. Amy, thanks for your thing, but it's time for us to go.
Yeah, time to
And
get out of
thanks,
here,
listeners. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and all that. And I don't know, send us money or something. But time to get out of here. Thanks a lot.
Oh wait, there's some guy that wants to talk to me. Hey, get out of here, buddy. We're recording a
That's
podcast. Oh no!
Is it Chuck
Oh
Berry?
God, guys!
Chuck Berry. Get outta
Something
here, Chuck
tremendous
Berry.
has just happened. Something tremendous just happened in our show.
Oh, the guy killed himself. That wasn't Chuck
We got
Berry.
to-
The guy killed himself.
We have to cut away from this.
Something fabulous just happened.
We're gonna cut back to the
Something
studios, everyone.
tremendous. A guy killed himself. Thanks for listening.
Oh, my child, it's about to get wild. Have you been down on the streets today? Say, yeah, now, baby, it's about to get crazy. Everybody's got something to say.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
Thank you. Love you.